It's transfer deadline day. It's mundane. The only thing that we're expecting now is Freddie G to leave on loan. Maybe a DM could surprise us and walk in through those Bodymore Heath doors. Chances of that happening though seem a bit slim to none. It's also International Week. Boring hell. There's no need for it at this time of the season. Though International Week isn't going to be as bad as normal or as boring as normal, because here at Talk of the Trinity, myself and Baz are chatting to International Villans. And first up, we've got Dave Scott from the Irish Lions. We speak all things Villa. We touch upon Irish Villans, funny enough. Robbie Keane, Stephen Ireland. We also discuss Stan Staunton and God himself. But which one of them played more games for the Villa? We'll let you, or even Wikipedia, decide. Let's roll the intro. Sit back and enjoy as we speak to Dave, the first in our instalment of International Villains. Up the Villa.
Hello and welcome to Talk of the Trinity. I'm Baz Barrett. With me is Will Forrest. And today, because it's International Week and there's not a lot going on the field for Villa for the next couple of weeks, we are going international as well. And with us, the first in our international series, we've got Dave Scott over from Ireland joining us today. You all right, Dave?
All right, lads. Cheers. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Great to have you. We've got a number of questions about all things Villa. We might throw in a few Irish related questions as well. I mean, we've had a few Irish players down the years, especially in the Premier League era. So I suppose first up, why Villa?
Well, I think, okay, so I don't give too much away. I'm in my mid-30s. I grew up in the 90s, was born in the 80s. And I think the first sports team I followed or was aware of was the Irish football team, because we had an English World Cup winner called Jack Charlton come in, and he just gave us this real sense of national pride that we didn't have. The whole nation got behind the team. And that's something that never happened before, because there's Irish sports and Gaelic football, and there used to be a bit of divide there. For whatever reason, whatever Jack managed to do, he got us all into the soccer team. He got a higher standard of player. He got a few who were born in the UK but had Irish heritage, and got them to really buy into it, and just gave us this belief that we could beat anyone. And of course, so when Premier League all kicked off, it was a very natural fit, because the biggest and best player for Ireland was, at the time, God himself, Paul Mcgrath.
Yeah.
His performances in the 1990 World Cup and then in 94 are just amazing. Some of the best, like in an Irish jersey. So it was a very natural fit. And as Baz, you were saying there, a fair few Irish lads over at Villa. So it was a very kind of, as I say, a natural fit. If you were following the Irish team, you love Paul Mcgrath, and he was in the Premier League. The other little thing that is very personal to me is that my aunt and grandparents actually moved to Hereford, which is in the West Midlands. And when we go over and visit them, the nearest big team was Aston Villa. It's about an hour and a half on the train. So it was always part of the holiday. I always wanted to go and see my aunt and grandparents so I could have a trip to Villa as well. So it all just fitted very nicely.
No, so well, there's no better place to go than Villa Park when you come over on your holidays. I mean, there's a few things in Birmingham, like Cadbury World and whatnot, but I'd much rather be down Villa Park. So
we did Cadbury World as well.
so yeah, we're not far away from Cadbury's, and I think it's obligatory if you live around here to have done the tour probably about 12 times before you turn 16. I think everybody wants to go.
Yeah, and there was that. I think there was the Severn Valley Railway or something is near there. Starts in Kidderminster, and then Villa Park, of course, is the other place to go.
No, fair play. I mean, you're part of the Irish Lions as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean, I actually got involved when I was very young, because I suppose I was a Villa fan, but in your class you'd be the only Villa fan in school. There'd be lots of Liverpool fans over here and Man United fans. So it was my dad looked up to see was there a supporters club, and I started going very young, and I've been kind of in and out of it over the years, sometimes helping run it, sometimes kind of just going along. So at the moment now we meet in Temple Bar. We're just back meeting for matches in Temple Bar. It's a place called Buskers on the Ball. So if any of your fans are ever in Dublin and there's a Villa game on, they actually show all the matches. It doesn't need to be on Sky or whoever shows the game. So they've agreed to show all of them. Good atmosphere in there, and slowly but surely getting fans back over. And obviously when it's all allowed again, we hope to get a group over. But yeah, I mean, there's a really nice bunch. I'm in the Leinster branch. There's a branch down in Munster. A guy called Paddy Kelly runs it. He does another. I don't want to plug another podcast, but he's on another show called For the Love of Paul Mcgrath. So he's the guy in charge of the Munster Alliance as well. And so we'll kind of, we're slowly but surely getting back to doing bits and pieces again.
Oh, that's sweet. So how many people have you got in your branch approximately, or even across both of them, if you were to hazard a guess? Unless you know.
Yeah, I mean, things have changed a little bit because of, people haven't been able to come in for games the last couple of years, but we're well over 100 people who are on our books and would regularly kind of go over to the games. And as well, like what's been amazing is that the playoff final, the one where we went up, if every Villa fan in Dublin goes to the same place, it's incredible. And what happened was, it was actually in Ireland, it was a bank holiday Monday. So all the pubs were closed a bit late, but Buskers opened early. And so we just had every Villa fan there. And it was people who weren't at the game. No, I couldn't travel, but I managed to get into Buskers for that. And it was an unbelievable day. And I did a few videos of it and uploaded it to our social media, to the extent that people who were at the game said, like, I actually wish I had stayed, because the atmosphere looked so amazing. So yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of Villa fans out there who will turn up for the odd big game, which is amazing. But I suppose in terms of the main reason why people join the sports club is probably to get tickets and to fly over. And so we'd have, as I say, but over 100 with the two clubs.
Oh, nice. So quite a big number there. That's fair play. I mean, so moving on to Villa at the moment, and also touching upon past Villa, and you've mentioned a few players who have played for Ireland and have also played for the Villa. And those are probably, Paul Mcgrath is the go-to person, isn't he, really?
Yeah, you can't get bigger than God.
Well, no, you can't. One of the only defenders as well of the Premier League era to win the FA Football Writers Award, as you were telling me on one of the previous podcasts. I think there's only been 3, 2 of which have represented us. But who's your favourite Villa player since you've been watching them? And is it necessarily an Irish Villa player, or is it someone else?
Oh, favourite player. I think we just need to take Paul Mcgrath out of it, because nearly every Irish person who supports Villa will just have him as their favourite, full stop. I'd always have this kind of, I'd always pick a kind of a substitute who'd come on and kind of get really excited about them. So like, remember, I know this sounds bizarre, but when Marlon Harewood used to come off the bench, I was always really excited about him because he might get a goal. Gabby Agbonlahor, I love Gabby. You do love people who come through the club as well and go on and represent them and become a legend. So I mean, we'd love Gabby, Ian Taylor as well. I mean, I know that they're probably the answers everyone gives. Maybe no one said Marlon Harewood before, but so either kind of an impact sub who might change things, or just someone who's Villa through and through.
So my Villa memory of Marlon Harewood is when he scored a hat-trick, but unfortunately he was playing for West Ham.
I remember I was watching, obviously I wasn't with the Villa Supporters Club, I was in a Liverpool bar and we were 1-0 down, and it was the O'Neill days, and I think Marlon Harewood came on and got one of the goals, and I was cheering, and the barman told me I was to sit down, or else he's going to nail me to the floor, because I was just in a Liverpool pub at the time. So I'll always remember Marlon scoring and me going berserk. So yeah, it's a strange answer there. The cult of Marlon Harewood.
Yeah, I'd expect an Ian Taylor. I mean, when I first started going down, I knew nothing about the Villa, but I remember reading the back of the Mail, and it said Ian Taylor has joined Villa. He's a Villa fan, and instantly he was my favourite player. And since then, it's been more of the Barrys, the Milners, those sort of midfield, goal-scoring midfielders or captain leaders. I don't know about Lee Hendry, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was originally Lee Hendry. I think it was just the story of a player coming through the youth system, making an impact, some late runs into the box. That's what I imagined I did when I played. Wasn't quite what happened in reality.
But yeah, I mean, it was part of that team of the late 90s when under Gregory, we were top for a brief period of time before things didn't quite work out the way we all hoped. But yeah, it was Lee Hendry for me when I was younger, but evidently had some great players going on throughout the 20 years and since then, and well, some not so great ones as well, but that's the ups and downs of being a Villa fan.
Yeah, the other one I loved, and it pains me that he didn't do a bit better at the club, was David Ginola. And a couple of games I was over, I remember it was a game with Coventry and we were 2-0 down, and Gregory had started Steve Staunton on the left of midfield, and the fans just at 2-0 just started chanting Ginola, and the man came on and changed the game. Now he didn't score, Merson put in a brilliant goal to win it, but I just like his performances were amazing. I would have just loved to see it go a bit better for him, but we've had a couple of big names sign and haven't really done it over the years, which has just been unfortunate because we were always, I think, maybe one big player short of challenging back in the Gregory days.
I think you're right. Whenever we signed a big name player, they seemed to sort of flop a little bit when they came to us. There weren't many who were big names that carried on and succeeded. Merson did very well for us. I didn't really appreciate him at the time, but I remember his goal against Coventry. I can remember that game vividly. One of my favourite ones. And other big name players that we signed, Darren Bent maybe. Nobby Solano was quite, I don't know if he was a big name, but he was quite good in the Premier League at the time, wasn't he? He was a baller,
Yeah, we didn't spend too much money on Solano as well. We did all right. It was mainly strikers from Liverpool who we spent big money on, who didn't tend to do very well, kind of in that era. Barros, Collymore.
Yeah, and even Angel, it took him a while to settle in. It was looking as though it was a big expense that wasn't working out. Now he came good and turned into a really great player as well. But as you say, Collymore, and there's a lot of expected with him, and it just didn't happen.
I mean, you say Angel, he scored in that game against Coventry, didn't he?
Oh, he did. It was his first goal. goal. Yeah.
How he used to just hang in the air as well. And it was like he was waiting for about 5 minutes for a cross to come in at times. But we've had some good Irish players as well through the years, as we've mentioned. And the most recent one, probably that's done well for us, Conor Harahan.
Yeah, I mean, he played brilliantly well against Barrow during the week or last week, and I really would love him to stay on. I think he has a role now. He doesn't seem to be getting much action in around the first team, and knowing the attitude of him, he'll probably want to play. So I wonder, is he going to be moved on? But Conor, when we went up, he formed a wonderful relationship with, I don't know, can I mention his name now, but
You can.
it's Jack Grealish and Conor, I thought were brilliant in the attacking midfield going forward. And he's got a great left foot. He can bang in a few free kicks. And I thought when Grealish got injured last season, it was just so typical that you'd see these videos of him scoring free kicks for Swansea, and we were struggling. So I don't know, was letting him go the best idea? He definitely has a role to play. The Irish soccer team is in a bad way at the moment. We need him. We need him playing games. So if I was an Irish soccer fan, I'd say, Conor, get out and get game time. But I'd love to see him get the run. El Ghazi looked out of it and came back into it. So if Conor just got a run of games, I think he'd improve. And I hear his attitude is good and his work rate is good. So I'd love to see him stay and play a huge role. But as I say, going up when that run of 10 games, he was brilliant, and him and Jack just had a really great kind of understanding together.
Definitely. I mean, he's made some big moments at the Villa as well, hasn't he? He got the hat-trick against Norwich, the first midfielder to get a hat-trick for us since David Platt, I think it was at the time. The wonder volley against the Blues when we beat them 2-0. And, I mean, there's only one team I hate more than the Blues, and that's West Brom. So when he smashed that shot in against them in the playoff semi-final, fantastic.
Oh, what a crucial goal. Crucial goal.
You know, when you see us linked with players like James Ward-Prowse, really for their set pieces and that, and I know he's a very good centre midfielder as well, but you want a set piece, man. Conor Harahan's your man, and you say about his attitude, and he's obviously a winner and he wants to play a lot. I remember reading about him playing for the Republic of Ireland, and because he wanted game time, he has to play at left back. And he played there for at least one game. I don't know if he's played more or whether maybe that's a role he could potentially transition into when we've got Target there. And Ashley Young tends to play every single position known to Dean Smith at the moment.
Right. Oh, I didn't actually know that. It must have been a friendly or something, or one of those trips we do somewhere. He's been injured the last couple of games, and we've really missed him. But yeah, I mean, maybe he'll be our cup captain, and maybe he'll be leading us out in Wembley after we go and knock Chelsea out in the next round and have a good run to Wembley. So maybe there's still some success for him to achieve at Villa. But knowing his attitude, I would say that he's going to sit down and talk to Dean Smith, and if he's not going to be playing, I'd say he'll want to move on. That's what I would guess from what I've heard about him.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of different things on Twitter about him as well over the last couple of days. I think Dean Smith had said that he wants to keep him around the squad at the moment because he's somebody who we can utilise and can also help the younger lads. But then there were a couple of pictures of him after the game yesterday having a kick around on the pitch with his family, and it seemed a bit of is this him saying goodbye? It's his last time on the pitch, really. I personally hope he stays at the Villa. I think he's got stuff to offer. But what about you, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly a consummate professional. I think he's earned the right to decide his own future, to be honest. I mean, I could see why Dean wants to keep him. I mean, if he wants to stay in the squad, great. I'd have him around. If he wants to be playing every week, if we can agree a fee that we're happy with and a club comes in for him. I mean, I think in terms of, you mentioned when he was on loan at Swansea last season, absolutely dominated. And, Swansea were close to going up, and that was largely because they got him in January to give their promotion push real impetus. So it'd be a shame if he left. I'd wish him well. And I suppose with
that playoff final in mind, honourable mention in the squad to Glenn Whelan for getting Steve Bruce sacked for missing that penalty.
That penalty, yeah.
He always gets some credit.
Yeah, and actually he managed to kind of revitalise his time at Villa because the previous management at Ireland, I think, had dropped him, and then he started playing for Villa again, and he came in and he helped us to a World Cup playoff final against Denmark. We finished ahead of Wales in our qualification campaign, and he was a rock, and he really came good. As I say, he was the kind of the defensive midfielder, holding man. He was the Douglas Luiz of that campaign, I think. And again, great attitude. And to see him with his medal at that pitch and on the Wembley pitch after the match, he seemed genuinely delighted that he'd helped us go up. Yeah, I think he's 37 now and he doesn't have a club, which is a bit of a pity. But he definitely deserves an honourable mention, as you say.
He did do well. I mean, if anything, as Baz says, for that penalty, against Preston, because you wouldn't have put it on. I think when he picked up the ball and you heard or you saw that he was going to take it, you thought, my days, surely this player or this player or this player should be it was a tactical genius by whoever it was who decided that that should be the case. I mean, I reckon that's probably not your best Villa memory. What is your best Villa memory?
I mean, okay, it's the Mark Bosnich penalty shootout saves against Tranmere Rovers. Yeah, and there was an incredible tie. It had everything because they were 3-1 down after the first one. And a big Ron Atkinson, I remember him giving an interview after the game saying, we've got a mountain to climb, we just got to go and climb it. Looked as though we'd done it, 2-0 back. Then Ireland international John Aldridge manages to get a penalty, which probably, if that happened now, Mark Bosnich would have been sent off. He didn't even get booked. But Aldridge scored the penalty. But Dalian Atkinson, who again, another, loved him back in the day, with a goal, I think was Dalian Atkinson late to send it to extra time. And then about a second later, Tranmere hit the underside of the crossbar, which just looked as though it was gone in. And then in extra time, Atkinson, I think he ran the length of the pitch and then managed to play a 1-2 off the Tranmere defender and nearly scored. It's like one of his typical trademark goals. And then into the penalty shootout and really looked as though, I was a kid at that time. I was emotionally exhausted. I was in tears. I think I was meant to have gone to my swimming practice or something, and I just didn't go because I just couldn't, because the match had gone to extra time. I was still a kid. I wasn't over at the game, but and then those saves that Bosnich pulled off. So I know a lot of people will talk about the '94 final and the amazing performance we put in to beat United, but I'll always remember that Tranmere Rovers semi-final win because it was just had everything. That tie had everything.
Yeah, it was certainly a great game. And I remember watching that game at my granddad's house, and
It wasn't quite as good as a result, but I remember I got a slice of cake after we won. So it was a great day for me and the Villa fans, obviously. And yeah, that cup final against Man United, no one gave us a chance of winning that game. I remember, in terms of even the local press in Birmingham over here, in terms of their predictions, they were all predicting Villa to lose. I think even the Villa press were predicting Villa to lose as well. So to go there and the United had an issue with the goalkeeper. I think Leslie played instead of Schmeichel. But even then, I mean, I think regardless of who they had in goal, they could. Well, I was going to say they could have had two people in goal, but they did when they put Kaczowskis on the line. But yeah, and that was a great cup final performance. And sometimes the final obviously takes all the glory because that's where the trophy gets lifted at the end. But the semi-final is often, more important in the journey and how you get there. Playoff semi-final as well, when we went up, that penalty shootout against West Brom. So we do have a history of nerve-wracking penalty shootouts. And luckily we come on the top end of most of them.
Yeah. Inter Milan also comes to mind if I can that penalty shootout, and there was actually lovely symmetry about that in the Irish kind of aspect, because one of our great Irish villains at that time, Ray Houghton, he actually in the 1994 World Cup. This is when I go back. Jack Charlton gave us this belief we could beat anyone. We beat Italy in the first game in the '94 World Cup, who lost to Brazil on penalties in the final. So when we won that, we thought we were going to win the World Cup. But Ray Houghton managed to lob Paliuca. Anyway, fast forward to the second leg when they're 1-0 down. It was Ray Houghton who scored against Paliuca in Villa Park. And I think he also scored a penalty in the shootout as well. So it was, as I say, from an Irish point of view, there's a lovely symmetry to that. But that was an amazing night because I think Villa's form was atrocious going into it. I think Ron got sacked soon enough after that game.
Yep.
And we went out against Travis Onspor in the next round, which is just typical Villa, knock out Inter Milan and out against some minnows. But it was a wonderful, wonderful game. Another wonderful cup tie that had everything.
You say Paliuca. Paliuca's a big Villa fan as well, isn't he? He's got a Villa tattoo on the back of his arm. Yeah, honestly, I saw it. I remember hearing about it before. So maybe he was like trying to keep Ron in the job, unlike Glenn Whelan with Steve Bruce.
So was he a Villa fan after Ray Houghton kept beating him? It was like, well, if you can't stop him, you got to join him.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Over the last couple of years as well, we could have probably done with him in goal, even at the age of 60 or 70 or whatever he is.
Probably would have done better than a few we've had recently. Well, in the Championship years, definitely.
Well, you mentioned a few Irish villains there, so and it's been mentioned on Twitter as well from our interactions. We discussed a Villa Irish 11. I believe you put one together for us as to what your all-time Villa Irish 11 would be. So do you want to hit us with that, if you don't mind?
I will. Now, I've kind of cheated a bit. I'm going back to before I followed Villa, because there's a couple of Irish Villa legends who've won a bit of glory with us, so I feel they have to be there. So
Fair
in
enough.
goals, slim pickings in goals. Shay Given, a great goalkeeper. I think he was just a bit past his best when he came to Villa, but he had been a great goalkeeper for Ireland before that, and in the Premiership with Newcastle for years. And then when he was at Man City, Mancini said he was one of the 5 best in the world or something like that. But just past his peak, came to us for that Alex McLeish season. But I the one good thing, he was a cup goalkeeper when we got to the FA Cup final, so has something to give there. I don't know, I hope you're not running out of time. I'll give you one story and we'll get to the rest of the squad. I was looking through the annals of history. When was there last an Irish Villa goalkeeper? And in 1950, someone called Joe Rutherford got injured, and a centre half from Dublin called Con Martin had played Gaelic football in Ireland. And because you have to catch the ball in that, they said, oh, you go in goals. So he actually played in goals for a year because the goalkeeper was injured in 1950. Now, I don't think we've had an Irish Villa goalkeeper since then, so it has to be Shay Given. Okay, I'll go into defence. Paul Mcgrath, don't need to make a case here. The other one beside him at centre-back, Richard Dunn. For a year, absolute colossus. I think he was the PFA Team of the Year in 2010. So he was brilliant. Left back, Steve Staunton has had a couple of spells at the club. That goal against Old Trafford, against Man United Old Trafford pops up in my On This Day feed. Yep. Brilliant. Right back, this is when I'm going to go for one of our kind of Villa legends. I'm going to go with someone called Eamon DC. He was one of only 14 players used in 1981 when we won the league, and he was the typical number 12. So he was a full back, and he was kind of always the first sub there. He's also a bit of a legend in Ireland. The local side in Galway, which is on the west coast, they've named their home ground after him. So it's Eamon DC Park. So that's, I know, he's a bit of a cult status here. Midfield.
You get a stadium, you get in the team.
You get a stadium, you get in the team.
It's fair play. It's fair logic, isn't it?
Centre midfield, I think the man who'll have the captain's armband, the man he was man of the match in the 1996 Coca-Cola Cup final when we beat Leeds, Andy Townsend.
What a player.
Great player, super player. He was a little bit late into that Irish contingent in the Villa team, but the third person in that, Paul Mcgrath, Steve Staunton, and as I mentioned, Ray Houghton, he was in midfield with him. I'm going to go to the attacking midfielders now. I'm going to put Conor Harahan in there, hoping that his Villa days aren't numbered. Bit of controversy on the right side. You may not like this, but we got one good season out of him. He was the Supporters Player of the Year in 2012, Stephen Ireland.
Okay.
I know there's pictures of him with shisha pipes and things, but he was good for 1 year and very skillful player.
There's an article about him at the moment, sorry to interrupt you, in the Birmingham Mail as well today, where he was saying that he absolutely hated his time at Villa. And that season I think you're referring to, was it Paul Lambert's season?
Oh, it was McLeish again.
Oh, McLeish, yeah. So it would have been the season after, and Lambert played him for 5 or 6 games. He broke his arm, and then when he came back, he got told he had to train with the bomb squad. And he was only allowed to come in on a Tuesday and a Thursday because they said, Saturday, Sundays, you don't need to be there. Mondays, everybody's off. Wednesdays is a day off as well. And we don't want you training on a Friday because we don't want the press driving by and asking questions as to why you're training on your own. And he got told to just do keepy uppies or crossbar challenges.
That is insane.
Yeah, apparently he didn't want to join us either. He just had a bad feeling about it. He knew he was part of the Milner deal. He felt really bad about the way Man City were getting rid of him. And it was Richard Dunn, who he bumped into at Bodymore Heath, who convinced him to join the Villa.
Wow. So,
I'm sorry for
if you
interrupting you.
no, you're absolutely well. No, I tell you what, if you feel hard done by, we can chuck Glenn Whelan in there. But I mean, maybe
We're
better.
happy with Ireland. We're happy with
We'll
Ireland.
go with that. I mean, he's an incredibly skillful player. There was a bit of a saga with the Republic of Ireland team as well. I won't go into it now. But
We won't mention the grandmothers.
No. So attacking left-sided. Okay, this goes back to when we had outside left. So when did we last win the FA Cup, lads?
1957.
Yeah, and who scored our 2 goals that day?
Mr. McParland.
Peter McParland, yeah. And if anyone's listening, there's a fantastic documentary that the BBC did, A Game of Two Eras, and they compare the 1957 Cup Final and the 2007 Cup Final. And of course, we're in the 1957 one. And it's hilarious. Back then, the shoulder barge was part of the game. So people would go into each other with their shoulders. And Peter McParland went into the goalkeeper. And because the goalkeeper pulled out, McParland clocked him in the head and I think broke his cheekbone or something like that. Yep. But this is before it substitutes. So he had this crazy situation where the poor Man United goalkeeper was concussed and they were putting a sponge on his head and trying to haul the jersey off for him and put it on someone else. And then when he was on his feet, they chucked him back in goal. So just insane. But Peter McParland, okay, he's a Northern Irish international, but he also played in the League of Ireland for Dundalk. And he actually came over to the Irish Lions as part of Aston Villa's pre-season tour when they played Bohemians in Daleman Park in 2010. And he did a Q&A, and he was a lovely man, posed lots of pictures with the old FA Cup. And my question to him at that Q&A in a pub in Dublin was, do you think Martin O'Neill is the right man to lead us forward? Now, this is 2 weeks before Martin O'Neill walked out. So, and the funny thing is, all the club officials had this big kind of dirty chuckle at that question. So I just wonder, were there rumblings behind the scene at that point? I can't remember exactly what he said, but he just highlighted the League Cup final and said when we went 1-0 up against Man United, we sat back. He didn't like those tactics. So that was his thoughts on Martin O'Neill. And up front, again, there's a big problem. And maybe I need to talk to you guys. The best Irish striker to play for Aston Villa is without a shadow of a doubt Robbie Keane. But he only played 6 games for us. He was only here trying to keep fit on his winter break, whatever they have from the Major League Soccer, from LA Galaxy. The top Irish goal scorer for Aston Villa is actually someone called David Walsh. Now, this is going way back, but David Walsh scored 40 goals in 114 games for him. The Villa paid a lovely tribute to him in 2016 when he died. They signed him from West Brom. I know you hate the baggies, so you may not like when I tell you he scored 100 goals for West Brom and he signed for Villa. And as I say, got another 40 for us. So he's the top Irish goal scorer for Aston Villa, I think. So I'm not quite sure. I'd love to put Robbie Keane there, but I'm not sure a 6-game stint counts.
It's up to you. You can use whichever number 9 you'd prefer to. You're a guest on the show. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with the goals. So I'll go with David Walsh. It's a blast from the past. It's 1951, but he is our top Irish goal scorer as far as I can find. So I'll stick with him.
Thinking about Irish villains, and this might be one that you don't really like me throwing at you. Could you have counted Jack Grealish?
You see, no one in Ireland was surprised when Jack Grealish left. So Jack Grealish rejected the English underage setup to play for Ireland. I can't tell you the exact reason why, because no one will know that but Jack, but I think it's so he could be accelerated up through the ranks, or he wouldn't have got that with England. He was in the Ireland under-21 squad, and Martin O'Neill then called him to the senior side, and then he suddenly said, oh, hang on, I'm not quite sure I want to play for you guys, and I need to make up my mind. And he took a year, and he still hadn't made up his mind. And eventually Martin O'Neill said, you're coming now, or that's it, you're not. And it was, right, well, I'm not then. But just so, now you can tell me that, look at him, he's not going to win the Euros with Ireland. He nearly won it with England. And that's fair enough. And I don't begrudge him. And I don't really begrudge him going to Man City, but he's a sports person, professional, who wants to play at the highest level. So when there was rumours that Man City were in for him, I and a lot of people over here thought, well, he's gone. You know, I mean, this is what he does. He is out for himself. and I'd be the exact same. And everyone, I'm not having a go at Jack. I wasn't surprised that he went to Man City at all. And look, he helped get us back up into the Premier League and stay here. So, you know, I do say good luck to him. He has given us an awful lot of service, and it will be sore. But I hope that, you know, in history, we'll look back and we'll be okay with it. You know, but in terms of, it was a big blow, because soon after Jack Grealish declared for England, Declan Rice, who had played 3 games for Ireland full international team, all in friendlies, suddenly declared when he found out that Gareth Southgate wanted him. So whatever about Grealish, Declan Rice actually playing full internationals and declaring for England, that really, you know, rankles with us over here. But it's also then set this domino effect now, because people like Bamford could have declared for Ireland. He's no interest. He's now got his first call up. Someone like Nathan Redmond could play for Ireland, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of, you know, any desire for them to play for Ireland. So like back in the 90s, you had Andy Townsend and Ray Houghton, and I mentioned John Aldridge as well, all kind of Irish heritage. Now none of these players are coming in. So the Jack Grealish saga, it's just set up this domino effect, and we're at the moment, we're really short of quality players. We've some good young players coming through, but we're just at the moment, we could really have done with the likes of Jack. But sure, look, I mean, sorry, that's my Jack Grealish rant. I'm sure you'll have many of them over the next little while.
We've ranted a little bit about Jack Grealish, and then we've felt bad for ranting about Jack Grealish, and reminisced over pictures and cried over him leaving, and then seeing him celebrating for his new club, and thought, fine, forget you then. And then we had Danny Ings come. I absolutely love Danny Ings. So we've been there. But have you got a manager for your Irish Villans?
Has to be Martin O'Neill. So he, a Northern Ireland international, then managed the Republic of Ireland setup. It was either him or Dave O'Leary, and let's not go near.
That's not really a choice when you put it like that.
No. I mean, look, it was a shame how Martin O'Neill left us, and we were all a bit shocked, and it was just downhill after that. But there was an exciting 3 or 4 years with him there, and he did motivate the team, and you know, maybe it wasn't always pretty at times, but we got so close. We got so close under them, and it was I really enjoyed being a Villa fan when Martin O'Neill was there. So Martin O'Neill, and as I say, as the Ireland manager, he got us to Euros and a World Cup playoff as well. So he's done decent jobs wherever he's gone.
Definitely. And you know what? It'd be nice for Stephen Ireland that he finally gets to play under Martin O'Neill as well, because O'Neill left only a few hours after Ireland had joined us as well. So there we go.
10 years in the making. Finally made it.
Yeah, that's a decent team, though. You know, that you do quite well in the Premier League with that Irish Villa in Evans.
We'd keep a lot of clean sheets with Richard Dunn and Paul Mcgrath at centre half. I'd say we'd keep it tight, and then hope McParland up front goes in on the goalkeeper, and Dave Walsh to slot 1 or 2 home. So I think we'd stay in the Premier League, and then the work horses of Andy Townsend and Ray Houghton. So we'd do okay. Probably wouldn't win the league, but you know, we'd be okay.
And the goalie wouldn't be holding on to the ball very long with McParland around.
That's it. Yeah, get it down to the wings.
I know Andy Townsend. He was my mum's favourite player, and whenever I used to ask her why, it was because he had a nice pair of legs. I never saw it myself, to be honest with you. But there you go. Some trivia about my mum.
That was one of the alternative names for the podcast. We were knocking around Andy Townsend's legs. You know, we outvoted that. Yeah,
I thought we were going for the Villa Park Perv. But
that's a spin-off. You know, that's the late night podcast.
Well, I put a few questions together for you, different questions, a bit of an Irish Villans quiz. Research. I was going to text you and let you know, and then I thought, nah, I'll spring it on you, because I'm a bit horrible like that at times. I thought I'd spring it on you like the team selection yesterday. It was a shock to us all.
Okay.
So if you're happy to, there's only 5 or 6 questions here. You know, I did the same with a Newcastle fan who was on recently as well. Didn't ask him about Irish Villans, of course. I asked him about players who play for both. But here we go. Which player has made the most appearances for Villa that is Irish?
My guess would be Steve Staunton because he had 2 stints at the club. So that would be my guess.
I mean, I could be completely wrong with this, and it's come off Wikipedia, to be fair.
Get a disclaimer in early.
But I've got Paul Mcgrath
Okay.
as the most. Do you want to hazard a guess as to how many games?
You see, Paul Mcgrath, it would probably be over 200, would it?
Yep.
How many?
252.
You see, your lads, you're wrong because Steve Staunton, I checked this up actually beforehand.
Okay.
Because he had a second stint. Because Steve Staunton had 200 odd games. I don't want to say you're wrong, but he came back in 2000 and he played another like 3 seasons there. So I actually think Stan has more caps because of the second. So definitely in that first stint, Mcgrath was more. But we'll check it out after.
Yeah, we got a position just lined up for a stats man, so we'll send you the contract through.
No, I think there was Stan hit about 200 games, then came back for another 70 or so. I think. Because I did actually remember looking up that stat before I came on.
Well, what I'll do is I'm going to get in touch with Mr. Wikipedia and tell him he's wrong. Anyway, I believe you. I believe you, to be honest with you, because I know you've done your Villa 11s and whatnot. And to be honest with you, it's probably how many training sessions did Paul Mcgrath miss during his time at the Villa?
Yeah.
Probably a year now.
You know, he didn't. He was a colossal force of nature, and he didn't even need to train. He was fantastic.
You see, I remember from his earlier days as well, he was actually great on the ball. He had a great pair of feet as well for dribbling. Like, he could read the game so well. So it's a shame that he had such a dodgy knee because he could have been an incredible midfielder, you know, as well. And he scored a few goals as well over the years. Not many, but, you know. Yeah. But I suppose the question would be, would he have been at Villa at the time? Because Fergie probably would have kept him. So maybe it was all for the best for us. But we love, actually, there's a TV station in Ireland. Probably by the time this goes out, they're showing a 2-part documentary on Paul Mcgrath this week. And the nation just loves him. And I think because he struggled with his demons and always put on the jersey, everyone here loves him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a very avid Villa fan as well, isn't he? You see on his Twitter, he's always wishing the Villa well. I'll move on to the third question. My answer could be wrong. Okay. So which Irish villain led us to our last piece of silverware, notable silverware? I'm not including Intertoto Cup.
Oh, you're not including Intertoto. And then, well, I think I've said it, the man who he got man of the match in the Andy Townsend. Yeah.
Definitely. And then Robbie Keane, you mentioned, played for us 6 times. How many goals did he score in those 6 games?
He scored 2 against Wolves and he scored 1 against Newcastle. So it's 3. Yeah.
I remember going to that Wolves game. I actually got a ticket in the Wolves end, right behind the goal. And the person I went with said to me, you know, when the Villa score or if they score, you can jump up and celebrate if you want to. I'm quite glad that I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you were with somebody. He wasn't your friend. He was just looking to try and bump you off.
And they were 2 great goals as well.
Can you imagine being a Wolves fan? Because I think did they go down that year? I can't. Yeah, they did. You know, they're struggling through, and then they go against a Villa side who are rubbish, but have got the sudden lift with one of their former players. Yeah. I mean, how unlucky is that for them? But
a player who should have joined us 10 years earlier, shouldn't he? Really,
would have been. I mean, I think we could have signed him when he was at Coventry, and he ended up going to Leeds. Was it Doug didn't want to?
Something like 10 grand or something a week, wasn't there? And he just didn't want to. He didn't want to give it him. So, in Villa's inaugural Premier League game, that 1-1 draw with Ipswich. How many Irish Villans were there playing, including subs that came on? Can you name them for me?
So Andy wasn't in yet, so I that's a great question. So I don't know the answer to this, but my guess would have to be 3, that it was Mcgrath, Houghton and Staunton.
Hang on a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
All 3 of those. And then last one, our current favourite Irish villain is obviously Conor Harahan.
Yeah.
Do you know how many Villa appearances he's made and how many goals he's scored for the Villa? I'll give you 10 leeway. 10 leeway.
The answer is no, unfortunately. So I was looking up to see who was Villa's top Irish goal scorer, and I saw Harahan had more than anyone else. And then I found out about David Walsh. So his goals are in the 20s, I think it is. So I'm going to guess 28 goals. I did look at it, but it didn't fully go into my brain. So
23.
23. Okay, 23.
At
Yeah. Now appearances, I don't know. So he came. I'm gonna have to try and do the maths. So he came halfway through our first season of the championship when Bruce was in. So he had a half season there, and then the next season we didn't go up, and the next season we did, and then he's been shut out. So, so 20, 40. I'm gonna give him a token 10. So what's that? That's 110. I'm so wrong with that. I'm going to guess 110.
You're not far off. 132.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he had the benefit, didn't he, of playing in the championship where there's a lot more matches.
Matches, yeah. Didn't put in enough championship games then.
But he was in that starting lineup when we came back up to the Premier League playing against Tottenham when we.
Yeah, I mean, he came back in after the lockdown and he did okay, and then. What I thought was bizarre is that there was a game against Fulham. So it was our first game, I think, because Man City was postponed. Am I right there? And he got a goal and an assist. And he was playing brilliantly. And he got taken off and then he got dropped because Ross Barkley arrived. And I thought that is incredibly unlucky to get a goal and assist and to suddenly be dropped. And then he was shut out. Now, look, we're not on the training ground. So, and Dean Smith, he's done such a good job. Can't dare criticize him, but it kind of doesn't really seem fair because I thought he's done quite well. And anytime he's played, and when you have these little arguments on Twitter, people usually say, well, he's championship quality, he's not Premier League quality. And I think, well, he hasn't really been given much of a chance in the Premier League. And, it would be a shame if he ends up going, I think.
Definitely. He seems to have played a different role for Villa than he did for Barnsley as well. Hasn't he? He was a lot more attack-minded at Barnsley, maybe because he was there, more of a key player for them. I'm not saying he's not a key player for us, but with the likes of Grealish to rely on and Kodja and Abraham, other players who have come in during his time, we've probably been able to rely on them a little bit more. But he's definitely a player who you think deserves a chance and should be in and around the squad. I mean, do you see him staying at the Villa then? Or do you, as you mentioned earlier, do you see him actually leaving? Because there's been links to Bournemouth for him, which, it wouldn't be a bad chat if he's going to get to a championship team. Not a bad team to join.
From what I know of the guy and from speaking to people who remember him coming through the system here down in Barrow and Cork, or Bandon in Cork, excuse me, Barrow we beat in the League Cup, Bandon. He wants to play. That's just the measure of the guy. He wants to play. So if Dean isn't going to guarantee him game time, I'd say Conor will go. That's what I think. Bournemouth, it could be a good fit. I'd be worried that he'd go and bang one in against us, But I think he doesn't owe us anything. I think he's contributed really well to the side that went up. I thought he was great in the midfield, and actually having Tammy Abraham in front of him, I thought that was, it was a perfect kind of combination because he's good on delivery and he's very good with passing and getting it forward to Jack, who'd be able to kind of dribble it into the box, and Tammy was there waiting. So he used to fit in really well to our setup, and but my instinct from what I've heard about him and his attitude and his wish to play games is that he's probably going to go.
Yeah, regrettably, it does sound from what we know about him like he will go. And you say, he has made big contributions. We don't owe him anything. He started the move very much in the playoff final for El Ghazi's goal with that wonderful pass he made. He made the great goal pass to El Ghazi for the first goal against Barrow the other night. We touched upon some of the goals he scored, and we haven't even mentioned any of the free kicks he scored against Newcastle. who he loves scoring against. It would be a shame to see him leave. Do you see us doing much business over the next couple of days? Do you think there'll be many players leaving? Do you think there'll be many coming in? What do you reckon?
Doesn't look like it. Obviously, James Ward-Prowse is over. I don't think we're the kind of club that will panic buy. And I don't think that'll be a good thing. And I think the recruitment team has been good. They've always been very assertive in who they wanted. And they seem to have worked out who they wanted. And I can't imagine they would have left something this late. So I don't want us to panic buy. I don't want us to sign someone just for the sake of it. And I don't. Well, I see people going out. I think there'll be more loans, and Conor possibly being one of them. But I can't see. I think we need to. We've brought in Liam Bailey. We need to see him come through. We've got Danny Ings who's hit the ground running. Wendy needs a bit of time. Watkins coming back from injury. The side will get better without any more signings, is what I think. And so we should just leave it be at this stage, I think.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from with that. I think you see a lot on Twitter, don't you, where people are demanding that we bring a DM in, or that we bring this type of player in or this type of player. And we discussed it, and we're going to do an episode where we go into it a little bit more as well after the transfer window shuts. But I think Douglas Luiz is more than capable of playing that. I mean, if you're a Football Manager fan, that deep line playmaker type of role, mopping up just in front of the defence.
No, I mean, whether we like it or not, we are a team in transition, and you're inevitably going to be, when you've lost what you may call the jewel in the crown best player you've got. Grealish goes for record fee for an English player.
You can't replace those type of players overnight. You can't even necessarily look to play in the same system even without you got to adapt, and I think that takes time, and inevitably there's going to be calls for quick fixes maybe in some quarters, but as you said, Dave, we've got players who haven't played yet who we've brought in. We've got players who are not necessarily fit or haven't had a full pre-season. Got to leave them time to bed in, and I think realistically it'd be nice to have a couple more players in from squad depth perspective, I think, but really in terms of, is there any position, certainly in the attacking side of the field, who you could look and say somebody's going to come in to go straight into the team? I'd probably say probably not. I mean, I'd say if you were looking really in terms of who you might look to bring in position-wise, the only one I could really think of who may be under pressure, if you could put it like that, is left back. And then if that's your only real position of concern, who's going to be playing left back? We're not in a bad place, is what I think. And I think it's looking at the long-term stability of the club, because we've got recent history in having some slight financial issues, shall we say, with the wage bill being a bit high and some player transfers coming and not being able to balance the books. So, and also, we've invested the money in the youth academy. So let's see what they've got. Some players coming in, mentioned against Barrow, playing promising signs, not necessarily throw 6 into the starting 11 when we played Chelsea away after the international break, but any minutes we can get them. I'd rather have a young player with potential playing half an hour off the bench or 60 minutes to start than a squad player who we bought for 10, 15 million. It's looking who's going to improve your team at the right price, and we've identified targets early, as you said, during the transfer window this season and last season as well. So but I'd agree. We don't need to be panic buying. We shouldn't be panic buying, and I think we'll be all right where we are. And I suppose say we're going to be all right. What is the definition of all right? I guess a future with or without Conor Harahan. Where do you think we're going to finish this season? How do you see the season panning out?
Yeah, I think we have to just give it a bit of time. I mean, we have been dependent on Jack for a few years. There's no question. I mean, he comes back from injury in Smith's first season, and we go on a 10-game winning run. He got injured last season, and we kind of fell apart for a bit. So we have to learn to play without him, and it's time to do that. And we've got some good players, and maybe they need a bit of time. I mean, I feel sorry for the likes of Buendia because he's kind of being talked up as the new Jack Grealish, and it never happens like that. It's never one for one. We've just got to play in a different way. And I think we can, and we have good players, and we've a good management team. You can't criticize the job Dean's done year on year. I mean, it's been steady progress all the way. So I know that Jeepers and you lads were at the Brentford game. I'm sure that was a little bit depressing. I was watching from the comfort of my own living room, so I could just change the channel afterwards. I'm sure that was a rotten drive home. But look, we just have to give it a bit of time. Hopefully by Christmas and next year we'll be kind of on our road to kind of a new style of play. And I think if we can be mid-table, given what's happened, given the sum we had, it's not the end of the world. Maybe I'm setting a bit of a low bar, but I think if we can end the season well, it's almost like, O'Neill's first year, I think we finished 11th, but it's how we finished the season that was a feel-good factor.
Yeah.
So if we can be playing good football, scoring goals, getting a few good results in that, tail end, that last 10 games, I think that bodes really well for next season. And, people will be excited to then join the club when we go to sign more players next summer. So it's just, hopefully we'll dig out enough points over the next month or two, and then we'll, get into our stride as the season goes on. And then, so maybe by next year, the 22-23 season, we can be realistically looking for the top 6 on European qualification. I think that's how long it's going to take. And I hope I'm not being overly negative or pessimistic there. But I think we just have to, realize that it takes time. And actually, considering that it did not look as though we were going up a few years ago when Smith came in, we're in a good place to maybe have a transitional season.
Definitely. I think you're being realistic rather than pessimistic, to be honest with you. Any improvement that we can make on last season is obviously an improvement as well. So that's for this season. One last question, because I appreciate how you've given us an hour of your time to talk to all things Villa and Irish Villans as well, and talk us a little bit also about those Irish Villans. There's a lot of talk about the 5-year plan with the Villa. In 5 years' time, where do you see us? Do you think we'll have won a cup by then? Do you think we'll be regularly in Europe, pushing for the league? What do you reckon?
God, it's hard because what's going to happen in those 5 years? Are Qatar going to buy Arsenal? It's just
not at the moment. No,
not at the moment. No. But
a good deal for a club in the Championship.
Yeah. So Man United, Man City, Chelsea, they seem to be kind of in a slight league of their own at the moment, and Liverpool as well. You'd wonder if Klopp leaves Liverpool, will they kind of go back to their kind of perennial underachiever status? Can we break into the top 4? It's gonna be tough. What's going to happen at Spurs? They will. Will they lose Harry Kane at some stage? I'm trying to see what sides we can realistically get ahead of. I'm not so sure I see us getting ahead of Man City or Chelsea. But look, Leicester won the league, so it's possible. So we might have a season where everything just goes right and get the Champions League. I would anticipate it's about top 5, top 6, maybe top 4 in about 5 years' time. And then maybe 1 year everything just clicks together and we can go and win the league. But I would say we'll be just kind of at that. I think Martin O'Neill said there or thereabouts. Or was that? No, that was Steve Bruce, excuse me. Steve Bruce was there or thereabouts. So I think if we can be there or thereabouts in the 5 years, we've done a decent job. And then just hopefully one season, a couple of sides are in transition and we can be there to capitalise.
do you know what? I'd be happy with that in 5 years or so. I'm sure you would be.
Yeah, I think Leicester's a good comparison. I mean, an FA Cup, I'd reluctantly accept.
Of course, yeah.
Well, you think
Yeah.
about where they were only a number of years ago when they were in League One themselves, and how brilliant they've done. And we've also got Shakespeare on board now, so you never know, we might be that lucky charm. But again, thank you for your time, for having a chat with us. I'm sure that we can do this again later on in the season if you fancy it, during one of the later international breaks, and we'll have a bit more of a chat about how the Villa are doing, and hopefully how they're overachieving.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. No, look, cheers, lads, and fair play for doing like the podcast. I mean, all the Villa podcasts have been great for, I think, keeping people connected over the kind of the lockdown, especially when we couldn't get anywhere near games. You know, it was great to have some kind of sense of community. So delighted to help you out with it, and best of luck with the show.
No worries, thank you. Well, when you come over next, we'll have to meet up, and then do you know what? I actually fancy going over to Ireland for a Villa game, so we'll let you know, and we'll come and watch it in your local bar.
Ah, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, I say we're in Temple Bar, so you can have a great night out after that. Fingers crossed.
Sweet, sound nice one, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, pal.
Up the Villa.